Hello, me again. This is Jeff with more ramblings. Yeah, I suppose you could call them ramblings. Well, I've just been watching a video on YouTube, I've seen loads of it, about artificial intelligence. And the big question is, artificial intelligence is being developed, and some scientists are saying don't, and some scientists are saying, oh yeah, this is going to give us a really clever tool to use to make our world better, maybe, fix problems. But of course, the whole point about making artificial intelligence is a computer that's really powerful isn't intelligent, it's just a number cruncher. Intelligence is more like intuitive. You make connections that don't really, that aren't so obvious. It's not 1 and 1 2. Intelligence makes 1 and 1. We pull out a 3. That because it never existed before, and we've developed it, we've invented it, kind of thing. But the big thing is, a lot of scientists, they say, oh, it's going to come from government laboratories, and they're going to create another kind of Terminator scenario where we all excuse me, I'm spilling hot tea on myself. They all can tend to work on this kind of figure. It's going to come from some secret research establishment, and it's going to get out. I remember reading one thing, and it said the last words that the human race will make will be "switch it on," which is a possibility, because basically most people are a little bit scared of the idea of artificial intelligence, because we know that we aren't very intelligent. We've got these, we've got brains, we've got society, we've got civilization, we've got cars, aeroplanes, spaceships even. But we're not that intelligent, because by the converse, we also got contaminative cars, we burn fossil fuels, we're really screwing our planet. And we don't really need to. The technology exists in nearly all cases to make a green world. Obviously population expansion is a bit of a problem, but we've just been locked in for the last couple of months with the flu. I mean, maybe the next one will kill a couple of billion and the world will retreat to a kind of more sustainable level. And unfortunately, sooner or later, something like that is very likely to happen. We don't know, but the world cannot sustain a population that increases under the present circumstances. There's no jobs, there's no work, there's more people every year, less work, that creates problems, and governments can just pump in money. So we're not that clever. Governments print the money to pump in. When you look at it objectively, to say an extraterrestrial, we'll do that another day, how would we appear? In The Matrix, the film The Matrix, they've got our hero, what was his name? I can't remember the guy. But he's been interrogated, and the artificial intelligence, the Matrix, describes the human race as a virus, and we are. We take over a planet. We've taken over this planet. We're just eating it, basically, and when it's completely buggered, we'll all die off, which is unfortunately one of the traits of viruses. They tend to kill the host. Excuse me. So we end up with artificial intelligence. What's artificial intelligence going to do? I'm going to switch on a computer, like, for instance, according to the scientists, quantum computers are going to be around. They did say 2050, but that figure's dropped now to 2030. And by which we're talking about quantum computers, they've got them now, and they can count like 1 to 1 million in about a trillion times a second. It's just so quick, it's unbelievable, but they can't do a lot. We still haven't managed to. So 10 years nowadays is a long time in science, especially when you can develop semi-artificial intelligences and give them a job to develop the next step. So if you get a very highly speed computer, supercomputer or something, and just hit it with a trillion variables and just say try them all out. Well, 15 minutes later it comes back, and one of the things you want to try out is how to make a computer think faster. So he comes up with ideas, but because it can do 1,000 operations or 1,000,000 operations or trillion, depending, operations in a second, depending on the computer, it can work on a kind of exponential rate. So you give it a job to do. The first time round it takes 5 seconds, the second time round it takes a second, the third time round it takes nothing, until the machine acts on a kind of semi-intuitive way. You give it information or a problem and it just comes out with the answer because it kind of knows it. It doesn't have to work it out anymore. You know, when you knock something off a table, a reflex, you knock it in on, you catch it. You don't think about it. You know, when you put your foot in your brake, these are reflexes, obviously. We're not talking about, but again, we're not talking about, you know, complicated stuff. But again, other things that people tell you, we know, we understand, it kind of almost instinctively. But then the big problem is, where are these super AIs and artificial intelligence going to come from? So you've got supercomputers that can think really quick. So there's a very good possibility that in some laboratory somewhere, they'll be, you know, they'll pop up by mistake, because the whole thing about it is you want to make an artificial intelligence, but you don't want it to be too autonomous. You know, it's no good in building the greatest machine in the world and then saying to it, "What's 6 and 6?" and it says, I don't want to tell you, I'm sulking." Now, the advent of quantum computers, they say 2030, it's only 10 years away, 9.5 years away, will create this level of computing. And once we've got a quantum computer that works, it can then create its own designs. You know, a computer that could read every piece of information on computer technology and robotics in the world in probably a second. And this is what quantum computers do. They are not just faster by 2, 4, 8. They're faster by margins of 1 billion times faster, or 100 billion times faster, because they work on a quantum level. They're working on an atomic level. So, right, where's they going to come from? And I reckon, and I'm pretty sure, the first place we're going to see artificial intelligence will be on kids with, you know, Xbox consoles and stuff. Because the guy who invented the game The Sims, which I don't know if anybody knows what it is, but it's a game. You play on a console or on a computer, and you have these people, avatars, and you give them names. They live in an environment where you put them in positions where they react, they interact. And of course, every year it's been getting from little square blocky pixel men who just walked and went. Now it's people who look as real as real. They smile, they cry, they behave. And when you load up the computer, I've never played this game, but I've seen it on YouTube. If you look it up, you can see it on YouTube. You can attribute character things. You can make people aggressive or friendly or good sense of humour, right? And each year this game goes on. It's obviously updated, and the people become more real. Now, it's a big question. These people are developing, first of all, they're just aspects of a computer program. They have no autonomy or reality. But as we go on, even with Moore's law, that basically says that every year, a bit longer than every year, the computer power doubles. So in the next 10 years, we look at what we got now, it's in like video games and computer technology and like robotics and things, and video games. In 10 years, it's going to go up from what we got now, 16, 32, 64, 128, 512. It's going to go up 1,000 times more powerful. And of course, the inventor of The Sims said by the year 2030, with quantum computers and the standard increase in complexity of the game, The Sims, how the people become more autonomous, he said by the year 2000, we will have a game of The Sims where the avatars, the people, actually believe that they're real. Right? So it's no longer, you give them autonomy, they live their life. Now the point is, you've got your game of Sims, and you're playing it, and these people believe they're real. So all you're really doing is kind of playing chess with them a little bit. You can manipulate them into circumstances and then see what happens. You know, you put 3 of them, you arrange for them to go to a restaurant, and the food's rubbish, and see how they behave. So you can affect certain character, certain external. You know, you can make the food in a restaurant rubbish or really good, but you can't. These people are autonomous. They've got personalities. And of course, what happens then is it's 10 o'clock. You've got to go to work tomorrow. You go to turn the computer off, and the avatar says, "No, you can't turn me off, because you'll kill me." Right? Because I want to stay alive. Well, when that happens, of course, how long is it going to be before we end up with a court case where, because what is the definition of life? We say artificial intelligence, but that isn't really life. It's just kind of simulating life. But real life is more like emotional, it's desires, some people would say a soul, right? But the real definition to me of life, in our way, I don't mean like a plant or a fish, but intelligent life, is that once an object, or even an animal, you know, maybe we'll be genetic engineering animals, chimpanzees or whatever, to do menial jobs, once they reach a level of consciousness that they say, I don't want to die. You know what I mean? That I'm alive, I want to continue to be alive, you know. Is that the point at which we say we've created life, which means that we are creating life? So what that life does with us, because it might pay us back, or it might just say, well, you know, the planet's buggered, so let's just have a tidy up, which would be very easy. They could either, like I say, an AI could take over governments, could arrange, look, we've all seen Terminator, we've seen all the films. But the bottom line is that I believe that this AI, the artificial intelligence, the artificial life, will come out of a video game, and when it happens, it's going to create a massive. At what level do these avatars have human rights? Because if they believe they're alive, well, what did I think it was Aristotle, one of the old Greeks, I think therefore I am. So if you believe, well, this brings on a second step, which we'll talk about next time, about the idea that we live in a simulation, that we live in a simulation, a holographic universe, part of maybe holographic multiverse, but you know, our verse, because we can't call it universe anymore. Is that a simulation? Are we? Well, we'll talk about it next time. Okay. Right. Well, thank you very much for watching. Please leave a like and any comments, because I'm interested in what people think. I'm not just rabbiting on, but I'm interested in what people think and their opinions, and also their suggestions. You know, what do we talk about? Okay? All right then, I'll see you next time. Bye.